Every year on August 15th, the day the war ended, cameras gather at a shrine in central Tokyo. They are waiting to see who shows up. If a Japanese cabinet minister walks through that gate and bows, 3 capitals react within hours. In Tokyo, some praise him, some condemn him. In Seoul, the foreign ministry summons a diplomat. In Beijing, a spokesperson steps to a podium and speaks of wounds reopened. One man, one bow, 3 completely different meanings. The shrine is called Yasukuni. And to understand why a single gesture can shake Northeast Asia, we need to walk inside. First, what Yasukuni actually is, because it is often misdescribed. Yasukuni is not a war museum and not a government cemetery. There are no graves. It is a Shinto shrine founded in 1869 by the Emperor Meiji to enshrine the spirits of those who died for Japan. Today, it venerates about 2.5 million people as kami, deities. The overwhelming majority are ordinary soldiers, farm boys, conscripts, teenagers who died in jungles and on islands far from home. Among them are also tens of thousands of Koreans and Taiwanese, colonial subjects conscripted into Japan's armies, enshrined without their families ever being asked. And since October 1978, among them are 14 more names. 14 men tried by the Allied Tribunal after the war and convicted as Class A war criminals, the leaders who planned and directed the war itself. They were enshrined in secret. The public only learned of it months later from a newspaper. That single decision, made quietly one autumn night, is the reason this shrine can freeze diplomacy 40 years later. Follow the timeline and watch a place of mourning become a battlefield. 1869. The shrine is founded after Japan's Civil War and grows with the empire. Through every war that follows, dying for the emperor means being promised a place at Yasukuni. 1945. Japan surrenders. The American occupation severs the shrine from the state. Yasukuni becomes, legally, just a private religious institution. It remains so today. 1975. Emperor Hirohito visits, as emperors and prime ministers had done for decades. It will be the last time. No emperor has bowed at Yasukuni since. 1978. The shrine's chief priest secretly enshrines the 14 Class A war criminals. 1979. A newspaper breaks the story. The public learns. 2006. Decades later, a memo by a former imperial official is published, revealing why the visits stopped. The emperor himself was displeased by the enshrinement of the 14. 1985. Prime Minister Nakasone makes the first official visit. China protests, the first great diplomatic firestorm. 2001 to 2006. Prime Minister Koizumi visits every year. Summits with China and Korea freeze. 2013. Prime Minister Abe visits. This time, even the United States, Japan's closest ally, states publicly that it is disappointed. Since then, prime ministers have mostly stopped walking through the gate. Instead, they send ritual offerings, trying to honor the dead and avoid the storm at the same time. The dead have not changed. The argument around them never stops moving. Start inside Japanese logic, because without it, the visits make no sense. Ask a Japanese supporter of the visits, and the argument is simple. Every country honors its war dead. America has Arlington. The soldiers enshrined here did not choose the war. They were sent. They died. A nation that cannot mourn them is a nation that abandons its own. For the bereaved families, the wives, the children, now the grandchildren, Yasukuni is where a lost father's spirit was promised to rest. That promise was, for many, the only thing they received back from the war. And there is a theological layer that outsiders rarely hear. In Shinto belief, when spirits are enshrined together, they merge, like flames joining a single fire. The shrine's position is that the 14 cannot be removed, because there is no longer a separate them to remove. You may find that convenient. You may find it sincere. But it means that for the shrine, the demand from Seoul and Beijing, just take the 14 out, is not a compromise. It is asking the impossible. Now cross the sea and hear the same bow from Seoul and Beijing. For Korea and China, the problem was never the 2.5 million ordinary soldiers. The problem is 14 names, and what standing before them means. when a prime minister bows at a shrine that venerates as deities the men who planned the invasion of China and the colonization of Korea. Neighbors do not see private mourning. They see a head of state paying respect to the architects of their suffering. China's foreign ministry calls the shrine a spiritual symbol of the militarism that launched the war. Korea adds a wound of its own. Tens of thousands of Korean conscripts are enshrined there, men taken by the empire, now venerated by it, in a shrine their descendants never chose. Korean families have gone to Japanese courts asking for their fathers' names to be removed. The shrine refused. The court sided with the shrine. To be colonized once by an empire, and then enshrined forever among its gods, that Korean plaintiffs argue is a second conquest, one that not even death lets you escape. Here is what foreign coverage usually misses. The fiercest argument about Yasukuni is happening inside Japan itself. Remember the timeline. The emperor, the very figure the war dead died for, quietly stopped coming and never came back. His son and grandson have kept that silence for half a century. Japanese citizens have sued their own prime ministers, arguing that official visits violate the constitution's separation of religion and state. Some courts have agreed. Some bereaved families welcome the visits. Others, including families of the enshrined, oppose them, saying their fathers have been taken hostage by politics. There is even an alternative, Chidorigafuchi, a quiet, secular national cemetery for the unknown war dead, a few minutes walk away. Politicians who wish to mourn without controversy go there. Proposals have circulated for decades. Build a new secular memorial, separate the 14, change nothing. Every option has a constituency. None has ever won. This is not Japan versus its neighbors. It is a country arguing with itself in front of an audience. So, why has nothing moved in 40 years? Because every path out is blocked, each by a different wall. Remove the 14. The shrine says Shinto theology makes it impossible. And legally, Yasukuni is a private religious body. No government can order a shrine to rearrange its gods. Build a new national memorial and let officials go there instead. Proposed many times. But for the families and the shrine's supporters, an official replacement would mean the state abandoning the promise made to the dead. Just stop visiting. Prime ministers have tried. Then colleagues visit anyway, or an offering is sent, and the photograph travels to Seoul and Beijing all the same. And for Korea and China, accepting the visits is equally impossible, because at home, that would look like forgiving the unforgivable. Everyone in this story is holding something they cannot put down. A promise to the dead, a constitution, a doctrine, a wound. Nobody needs to be a villain for a deadlock like this. That is what makes it a deadlock. This series has been collecting questions. Where does your history begin? Who counts your dead? What is history made of? Yasukuni asks the fourth. Who decides what a gesture means? The one who makes it or the one who watches? A Japanese politician bows and says, "I am mourning my country's dead." A Korean grandmother watches and sees. He is honoring the men who took my brother. Both are describing the same 30 seconds. Neither is inventing what they feel. Here is the uncomfortable truth about symbols. They do not carry one meaning. They carry every meaning that history has loaded into them, and different histories load different things. The bow cannot be innocent because the 14 are there. The bow cannot be pure evil because the 2.5 million are there too. If you take one thing from this episode, let it be this. Before you judge a gesture, ask what it means to the person making it, and then ask what it means to the person who cannot look away. Every August, the cameras will gather again at the gate. Somewhere in Tokyo, a politician will decide whether to walk through it. And 3 nations will read the answer, each in their own language of memory. If this episode made both the bow and the anger make sense to you at the same time, hold on to that discomfort. That is what understanding feels like. Next time on Unlearn, we leave the shrines and the textbooks and go to sea. 5 uninhabited islets in the East China Sea, patrolled by 1 country, claimed by 2, watched by the world's navies. Senkaku, Diaoyu, 2 names for the rocks that could start a war. See you then.